Well, hello and welcome to this week's edition of the CFO Trading Update. This is specifically for my YouTube subscribers. So look what we see here with the markets. We had a bear flag forming below the 200-day moving average. Since then, we've had 4 days in a row to the upside. We've had a pullback to the 200-day moving average. And now our opening range, which was set from the high and the low of the first trading day of the month, we are now in neutral zone. So we still don't have a clear direction on the market. We are neutral right now, and we will wait to see what the market gives us, right? We trade what we see and not what we think, and right now we are neutral. It's what the numbers are telling us. However, we are above the 200-day moving average, so that is somewhat positive. If we look here at the overall indexes, we can see that the major indexes here that we use are sitting at or on their 21 EMA, which is our line in the sand on the daily chart between bullish and bearish. So not really giving us any direction here either. If we narrow down from the indexes to the actual sectors, we can see that the second largest sector, financials, is now above its 21 EMA, and the largest sector, technology, is just below its 21 EMA. Most of the sectors we see here are just below or at their 21 EMAs, except for energy, which is continuing its uptrend. So in a nutshell, we are not seeing any clear direction to the upside or the downside right now. If we have a look here at Bitcoin, now Bitcoin is, it's had a pretty big move in the last week. It's gone from a low here of around 33,000 to trading at almost 43,000. It's almost a $10,000 move in the last week or so. So quite bullish, but it is now up against the 50-day moving average, as you can see, which acted as resistance, and now back up against that level again. If we do break above the 50-day moving average, then we could start to see a move in Bitcoin. Could come up to this 200, which is just below 50,000 a coin. So keep an eye on that 50-day moving average with Bitcoin, and then with the overall market, you want to be focusing on the specific number is 4550. If it gets above that level, daily close above that level, 50 points from where we are now, that's when you're going to start to see some bullishness in the markets, but we don't have that yet. So neutral across the board with Bitcoin potentially making a breakout if it gets above the 50-day moving average. So that's what we're seeing there. Now, you would have heard me talk last week about MasterCard. Now, MasterCard, my prediction here, or my analysis, was that we could certainly go to a high here of 400. Now, when I was speaking about undervalued MasterCard stock, it was trading at $350. We had a $50 move to the upside, hitting my target, well, just below it actually, at $399.92. So that was a beautiful trade to the upside there on MasterCard. Now, we recently saw Snap, who produced some pretty good earnings. 22 cents earnings per share and 1.3 billion was reported, compared to the estimate of 10 cents earnings per share and revenue of 1.2. Revenue grew 42.4%. So as a result, you saw a pretty big move in Snap. In fact, a 60% move to just below $39 a share. That was interesting, and if you contrast that to Facebook or Meta platforms, you can see that this stock had a huge move to the downside, going from around 328 to 230. So pretty big move to the downside. Now, when I look at the real value, my calculations, my mathematics here on Meta platforms, Facebook, I value this stock around $306.86. So I believe there's an opportunity here. Now we've had a big move down, bit of an overreaction. I mean, have a look here at Facebook. Let's have a look. Okay, let's have a bit of a look here. And let's actually have a look what happened. So if we log in here to earningswhispers.com, we can see that the earnings come out on the 2nd of Feb, right? They reported $3.67 earnings per share compared to the estimate of $3.78, and revenue of $33.7 billion compared to the estimate of $33.4. So they beat on revenue, but they missed on earnings per share. But they still grew earnings at almost 20% year over year, or revenue. So not that bad, but when you look at the forecasted earnings for the next quarter, they're looking at 27 to 29 billion compared to the estimate of 30.11 billion. So it was under the estimate moving forward, but still a very good company, and such a big fall, over $100 move to the downside. I think that presents an opportunity with a real valuation of around $306.86. So there could be an opportunity here to potentially set up a trade to acquire Facebook down at 210. We'll talk about that in a minute. Now, another stock here that I'm looking at is Moderna. Now, Moderna has gone from almost $500 a share down to $163. So a huge fall in Moderna. But let's actually have a look at the numbers. Remember, people lie, numbers don't. Let's look at the numbers. So if we look at Moderna here and we look at the net income, look at the trailing 12 months. Look at that net income there. If we look here at the income statement and we look at the revenue, my goodness me, an $11 million increase in the trailing 12 months in total revenue. That is incredible. And then if we have a look here down at the free cash flow, we can see that has risen dramatically. So pretty fundamentally sound company, producing a huge amount of revenue and free cash flow, no doubt about that. If we look at the analysis here and we see the next 5 years growth rate, how does a company increase its share price? By growing its earnings, 16.8%. So that's very solid as well. But if we look at the company, pretty big move down. There is a support level there at around 150. Okay, so I think this could be a potential to pick up an undervalued stock. Now, with my valuation calculations, I value this stock at around $206.86. Okay, so it's undervalued down here at 163. So this brings us to a way of potentially setting up a trade. I'd like to acquire Moderna at $150. For that, right, I would like to be paid $1,100 for every 100 shares I agree to buy day one. That's right, over $1,100 right now. So that would generate a 7.4% return for the next 39 days. One of two things will happen. If Moderna is above 150, I keep the $1,105 for every 100 shares I agree to buy, and I don't have to buy the stock, and I make a 7.4% return. If it does finish below 150 come the 18th of the 3rd, because I'm selling the 150 put option, I'm agreeing to buy it at that price and being paid day one. If it does finish below 150, I will still keep the $1,150 per contract for every 100 shares I agree to buy, and I will then buy Moderna stock with a cost basis of $138.95 with a real value of $206.86. I like that. Now, the other one I spoke about was Facebook, right? Now, what I would like to do with Facebook is agree to buy it down at 210. Remember, its real value is over $306. So if I could agree to buy it at 210, if I could acquire it at 210, I'd be happy with that. I would receive $445 for every 100 shares I agree to buy, or a 2.1% return. If it finishes above 210, I keep the money and I don't buy the stock. If it finishes below 210, come the 18th of March, I would then still keep the money, but I would buy the stock at 210 with a cost basis of $205.55 with a real valuation of $306.86. So I'm pretty happy with that. So I think there's two exciting opportunities there. There are a couple of other ones that I've got my eye on, like Square or Block, changed its name recently to Block. That's had a pretty big move down as well, but I think this is a pretty attractive valuation right now. I value this stock at around $151.59. I think it's undervalued right now, right? Significantly undervalued. And I think this could produce a significant move higher in the next 12 months. And I'd like to acquire the stock. However, it does have earnings coming up, and I don't want to get in front of earnings, right? So I'm going to wait for earnings to come out with Square or Block. They're confirmed for the 24th of February after the market closes, 5 minutes after the market closes. So that's another stock I've got my eye on. And then I had another one here that I've got my eye on as well, which is Disney. Certainly got my eye on Disney as well. My real valuation for Disney is around $171.09. undervalued right now, but again, that has earnings coming up. So I've just got that one on my watch list. Undervalued stock I'd like to own. That's got earnings coming out after the market closes in just a couple of days' time on Wednesday. So there are a couple of ideas that I'm looking at, not getting into them yet, but certainly Facebook or Meta platforms at that discounted price is a great potential idea, and also Moderna as well at a heavily discounted price compared to its real value. So there are a couple of ideas that I'm looking at right now. I'm certainly keeping a close eye on Bitcoin. If it gets above that 50-day moving average, have a couple of Bitcoin related mining stocks that we are in right now. So I'll be keeping a close eye on that. But moving forward, I see this opportunity down here as a opportunity to buy, right? And this is, I was buying more Bitcoin down here. So that's what we're looking at this week. We'll see whether the market does give us a clear direction with our opening range. Remember, 4483. A daily close below that and the 200, that's going to be significant this week, is going to be bearish. Something above 4550, 50 points from where we are now, a daily close above that, and we'll be in bullish opening range mode. So they're the things to watch. There are a couple of ideas that I'm looking at right now with Facebook and Moderna, and also two ideas that are on my watch list with Square and Disney. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed that. I'll talk to you again next week. All the best, and bye for now.